Well, well, well. Look who's still standing. Come closer, precious. I want to tell you a story about people who thought they were predators, and discovered, far too late, that they were piñatas, because that's what happened here. They swung at you with everything they had, and every single hit just cracked them a little more open, until all that ugly stuffing spilled right out for everybody to see. They actually, they actually thought they had you. That's the part that keeps tickling me. They were so sure, so deliciously certain, that they stopped being careful. Sloppy. Reckless. Like a pickpocket wearing a bell. And right now, right this very second, that entire little battalion of theirs, the one that was so coordinated, so strategic, so smug, is in the middle of the most spectacular, public, humiliating meltdown you have ever witnessed. And the most beautiful part, chef's kiss. They cooked every single course of this disaster themselves. You didn't have to lift a finger. You didn't have to whisper a word. You just kept breathing. And they suffocated on their own fumes. Because here's what they never understood about a grenade cupcake. When you pull the pin and hold on too long because you're so busy admiring your own arm, it doesn't sail gracefully toward the target. It just goes off. Right there in your hand. And everyone hears the bang, sees the smoke, watches you stumble around wondering what happened to your fingers. That's exactly what occurred here. But here's what I really want to drill into that gorgeous skull of yours, because this is the thing that changes the whole plot. It wasn't luck. This wasn't some random glitch in the Matrix. What's happening to them right now is the direct, mathematically inevitable product of exactly who they are. And what's happening to you? What's rising around you like a tide they can't sandbag? That's the direct, inevitable product of exactly who you are. So let me walk you through all of it, because you deserve the full autopsy of their ambitions. Let's rewind to the beginning, because there was a beginning. A very specific moment when someone looked at your life, looked at you, and made a decision. A calculated, premeditated, let me clear my schedule for this decision. They didn't trip into conflict with you on accident. Oh no. They chose it the way a surgeon chooses a scalpel. They pulled people together. They had conversations behind closed doors you were never ever supposed to hear about. Whispered little war councils, group chats that read like manifestos. They coordinated, they plotted. There was a mastermind. One person sitting right at the center of the web, spinning threads, genuinely believing they were the smartest creature in the room. The puppet master. The one who could allegedly see 10 moves ahead. And this person, this person, gathered followers, people who trusted them, who bought the whole pitch, who were absolutely convinced that what they were doing was righteous. And together, as a unit, like a little army of ants marching toward someone else's picnic, they came after you. And here's the thing about how they came after you, Buttercup. It wasn't loud at first. It wasn't aggressive. It was quiet. Surgical. The kind of thing that makes you question yourself before you ever think to question them. They used gaslighting, not the watered-down, throw-it-around-on-social-media version. I mean the real thing, the heavy, sustained, industrial-grade kind that's engineered to make you doubt your own perception of reality. They took things you saw with your own eyes and swore you hallucinated them. I have to interrupt. This is a life-or-death shift. You survived the ritual, but are you using the power? Pick up The Evolution of the Anomaly. 73 pages to rewrite your DNA, Grab it in the description. Now, let's get back to why you're really here. They took things you heard with your own ears and insisted you misheard. They took things you felt in your bones and told you that you were too sensitive, too dramatic, too much. And the goal wasn't just to confuse you in the moment. Oh no. The goal was to make you so uncertain of yourself that you'd never trust your own compass again. That's how you cage someone, see? You don't build bars around them. You convince them the bars are inside their own head. But here's the punchline, and I do love a good punchline. The truth doesn't need a defense attorney. It just needs a microphone. And eventually, always, inevitably, somebody turns it on. And for a while, for a real, honest, gut-wrenching stretch of time, it low-key worked. You doubted yourself. You replayed conversations at 2 a.m. like a detective reviewing crime scene footage, trying to figure out if maybe you were wrong, maybe you were the problem, maybe they really were your people and you were just reading the room wrong. That's what this particular brand of poison does to a person. It's not weakness. It's not stupidity. It's what happens when people who should have been shelter turned out to be the storm. And you carried that confusion in your chest like a stone you couldn't put down, couldn't explain, couldn't get anyone else to fully feel. Because from the outside, these people looked pristine. They were charming. They were convincing. They had a whole highlight reel they showed the world that was completely different from the blooper reel they ran when nobody was looking. Their duality, sweetheart. Their beautiful, rotten duality. That's what I want you to really let marinate. Because this is who they fundamentally are. They are people who operate in costumes, the face they show you, the face they show their other friends, the face they show in public. 3 different performances, none of them the actual person underneath. They embraced you and buried a knife in your reputation in the same motion. They told you they had your back while actively digging the ground out from under your feet. They looked you dead in the eye and lied so smoothly that sometimes even they lost track of what was real. That level of deception doesn't just appear. That's a lifestyle, a vocation, a whole personality built on quicksand. And underneath all of it, underneath the smiles and the strategy and the late-night group chats, was jealousy. Pure, raw, festering jealousy. Not the kind that flickers and fades like a match. The kind that burns slow. The kind that turns into rot. The kind that eats through floorboards until the whole house collapses. They couldn't stand something about you, something real, something they could see and feel and name in their worst, most private moments. Your genuineness, the way people gravitate toward you without you even trying. Some quality you carry that you probably don't even fully clock in yourself. And they couldn't manufacture it, so they decided the only play was to demolish it in you. They weren't actually fighting you, Angel. They were fighting their own reflection. You were just the mirror they couldn't bear to look into. Think about what that tells you about them. Let that one sit on the stove for a minute. When you can't create what you want, and your solution is to torch it in someone else, that's not power. That is not someone operating from strength. That is someone who is deeply, architecturally hollow, and they wallpapered over that hollowness with control and performance, and a reputation for being somebody important, somebody with pull. But underneath the wallpaper, nothing. Just studs and empty air. And here's the thing about nothing, darling. It cannot hold weight forever. Substance always outlasts a performance. Always. That's not a greeting card. That's gravity. So let me tell you about the moment everything started to turn. Because there was a moment. And it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some big showdown or viral blow-up. It was something so much quieter than that. You stopped reacting, that's it. At some point, whether consciously or just because you were finally completely spent, you went still. You stopped engaging with the chaos. You stopped trying to argue your case in a courtroom where the jury had been bought before you walked in. You just went ghost. And I want you to understand how absolutely catastrophic that was for them. Because their entire operation, the whole architecture of the thing they'd assembled, depended on you being reactive. They needed you to clap back. They needed you to explode, to lose control, to do something, anything. They could screenshot and wave around, going, "See? See? This is what we've been dealing with." That was the blueprint. That was their whole end game. And you quietly, completely denied them the satisfaction, because you don't have to throw shade when you're already standing in the sun, love. You just stand there, and the contrast speaks for itself. The silence drove them absolutely feral, because they couldn't do anything with silence. They couldn't twist quiet into a headline. They couldn't weaponize peace. And so they pushed harder, sent the messages, escalated the whisper campaign, poked and prodded and dangled bait, trying to get a rise out of you. And you gave them nothing, zero, the void. And here's what happens when people like this don't get the reaction they've been banking on. They start glitching. Their stories stopped matching. People on the outside, the ones who'd been half watching this whole mess, started noticing the cracks. The mastermind, the one who was supposed to be this brilliant chess player, started looking erratic, desperate even. The confidence chipped. The mask developed fractures that no amount of filter could hide. And the followers, the ones who'd trusted this person, who'd staked their own credibility on this little crusade, they started looking around at each other going, "Wait, what exactly are we doing here?" That question, that single devastating question. While they were so busy surveilling your every move, they forgot to check their own footing. And that's where they wiped out. Because here's the thing about a crew that's built on a common enemy, sunshine. The moment that enemy stops being available, stops being a visible target, the crew has nothing holding it together. They were bonded by their mission to tear you down. That was the cement. And once you removed yourself from the equation, once you stopped BMing the thing they could all rally against, they had to actually look at each other. And what they found when they looked at each other, it wasn't loyalty, it wasn't friendship, it wasn't anything remotely genuine. What they found was that every single one of them had been a prop. Every one. Used by the person at the center. The mastermind didn't care about them any more than they cared about you. They were expendable extras in someone else's movie. And the director, the moment the production started falling apart, did exactly what people like that always do. Protected themselves first. Left everyone else standing in the wreckage. Let the followers absorb the heat while quietly moonwalking out of the mess they'd choreographed. And when the followers realized it, when it finally hit them that they'd been played, that the loyalty had never been a two-way street, that the person they followed into this catastrophe was now leaving them to clean up the debris alone. Everything detonated. The trap they'd so carefully, so methodically set for you. They walked right into it themselves. The wall they built, trying to box you in, they accidentally sealed themselves inside it. The group didn't just weaken Pumpkin, it shattered. The same tactics they used on you, the gossip, the manipulation, the two-faced theatrics. They are now running on each other. Betrayal stacked on betrayal. Story after story that doesn't line up. The trust is gone, and it is not coming back. Whatever this group was, whatever it felt like from the inside, it's done. Permanently. There's no reboot. The fractures are too deep. The wreckage is too visible. Their downfall wasn't a coincidence. It was a consequence. Action meet reaction. Pleased to make your acquaintance, and meanwhile, and this is the part that really gets the blood pumping, you were building. While they were plotting and scheming and running their sad little covert ops, while they were burning calories trying to demolish something in you, you were quietly, steadily constructing something they cannot touch. New connections. Real ones. People who actually see you, who are genuinely in your corner, who don't come with terms and conditions. Conversations that feel like oxygen instead of performance. A version of your life that is richer and more authentic than the one you were living when those people were still in it. And they can see it. Treasure. That's the other thing. They're watching. They see the abundance circling you like satellites. They see you healing in ways that don't compute in their operating system. They see you not just surviving what they put you through, but actually leveling up from it, becoming something. And they cannot fathom it. They tried to drown you, but they didn't realize you were a submarine. And every ounce of pressure they forced on you, every betrayal, every coordinated attempt to suffocate what you were becoming, it just pushed you deeper into your own power. They threw absolutely everything they had at you, and you came out the other side, sharper and steadier and more grounded than you were before. What they designed as demolition became renovation. They didn't break you, they upgraded you. And they have to wake up and live with that every single day. You outgrew the space they tried to keep you in. That's really what this is, and it hits different when you say it out loud. They had a version of you in their minds, smaller, quieter, more manageable, easier to handle. And you simply became too large for the container. Not because you were trying to escape them, because you were just growing into yourself. And real growth, actual, root-deep growth, cannot be stopped by somebody else's agenda. It's giving unstoppable force, and they were never the immovable object they thought they were. They thought they were the main character in your story. They planned for it. They built entire scripts around it. But they were never the lead. They were a scene, a chapter that closes, a wrong turn that in hindsight pointed you exactly where you needed to go. Now, I need to be crystal clear about something, because a certain little act is coming, and I want you to be ready for the curtain call. Some of these people are going to try to come back. Maybe they always do. Maybe they already have. They're going to reach out with a softness you haven't seen from them in a while. Sweet messages, concerned check-ins. Hey, I've been thinking about you. Are you okay? I miss you. And it's going to feel familiar in a way that's hard to explain, like a melody you can't quite place, like a door you thought was locked swinging open just a crack. And here's what I need you to hold on to in that moment. Peach. They have not changed. The person reaching out is the same person who orchestrated everything against you. The sweetness is a costume, and I know a thing or two about costumes. It's the next act in the same play. You know the cycle. It starts warm and friendly, and when you don't respond, it turns desperate. And when desperate doesn't land, it turns guilty. I can't believe you're treating me like this. And when guilt fails, it turns mean. And then 5 minutes after mean, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it. And then the whole circus packs up and rolls back into town next week. This is not someone who wants a real relationship with you. This is someone who wants a supply, your attention, your reaction, even your anger. Any of it feeds something inside them. Your silence starves it. Keep the silence, not out of spite, not out of revenge, out of self-knowledge, out of self-respect. Don't stumble over people who are already behind you. They are behind you. They were behind you the moment you decided to stop looking back. There are people entering your orbit who are going to feel completely different from anything you experienced with this little ensemble. Interactions where you don't have to guard every word or decode every subtext or perform just to feel safe. People who are genuinely aligned with where you're headed, who bring voltage instead of draining it, who show up the same way behind closed doors as they do in front of an audience. They're already close. Some are already there. And there's also someone with real weight, real credibility, who is going to speak up for you. Who's going to tell the truth about who you are and what you actually endured, in a room where people are paying attention. You don't have to orchestrate that. It's already in motion. The dominoes are mid-fall. And here is the bigger picture. The thing I really want tattooed on the inside of your eyelids. A year from now, just 12 months. Everything that is loud and chaotic and heavy right now is going to feel like a signal from a different frequency. Not because you'll have forgotten it, but because you'll have grown so far, so fast, that the distance will feel almost unreal. A year from now, you're standing somewhere entirely different, surrounded by people who are solid, living in something that is actually yours, that actually fits like it was tailored. The noise from this group, the drama and the scheming and the fallout, is going to be so far in the rear view that it barely makes a sound. Karma didn't just knock on their door, lamb. It took the hinges off. And the group that tried to dim your light, they just blew out their own wick. While you were still glowing, still here, still building, brick by beautiful brick. Because here's the truth. The thing at the absolute beating center of all of this. You don't need to do anything to them. No revenge, no exposure tour, no final monologue. Well, except this one. Your life, the way you're building it, the way you're healing, the peace you're actively choosing every single day. That is the louder, most devastating, most complete response you could possibly deliver. Success is the sharpest edge, and your silence was the most deafening thing you ever said. They wanted you to crumble. They planned for it. They bet the house on it. And instead, instead, you built something extraordinary directly in front of them, right out in the open where they could watch every single piece go up. That is not just winning. That is winning in a way that cannot be argued with, cannot be reframed, cannot be snatched from you. Because you didn't win because they failed. You won because you stayed true to yourself. You stayed real. You stayed kind. You stayed you. And that, right there, is the thing they could never take, no matter how hard they tried. And believe me, they tried.